So, you fell for the clickbait.
You screwed up.
You fuck young boys.
So I just saw Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and it was definitely something to behold. It wasn't a bad movie. In fact, I found it pretty enjoyable. So basically, it takes place a few years after the first movie, and Venom and Eddie are struggling living together. They fight and bicker like an old married couple, and that's what most of the movie revolves around, Eddie and Venom's relationship. Then while this is happening, a serial killer named Cletus Cassidy becomes obsessed with Eddie, and then after a few meetings, he gets a mouthful of Brock. And he gets a symbiote of his own, Carnage, the offspring of Venom. Let me start off by saying I respect this movie for being a little bit more self-aware than the first. It's much more goofy and silly. In the previous movie, the first part was pretty serious with the Life Foundation and the experiments, and Eddie's life being total shit. But then the second half turns into a funny, goofy, buddy cop type movie, focusing on Eddie and Venom, which was the more enjoyable part. Here in the sequel, they take that and crank it up to 11 and just run with it, turn up the humor and goofiness along with it, which right off the bat makes this movie much more fun, just because you're getting more of what worked in the previous. Within the first 10 minutes, you're gonna notice the cheese and silliness and what this movie is trying to do. There's no tonal whiplash here, and I like that it just runs with the absurdity and humor that worked in the first. And that's what I like seeing the most, the back and forth between Eddie and Venom, the dark humor that is in several scenes, and the over-the-top nature of characters like Cletus. It makes for a really fun watch. But if you aren't a fan of the goofy stuff from the first, then you probably won't like this, since it's much more front and center here. For me personally, I really enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed Woody Harrelson as Cletus. He's pretty damn amazing. He's so much fun to watch and comes off as creepy and at times nonsensical with his ramblings, which the movie addresses, so that makes it even better. They acknowledge that this dude kinda makes no sense. Now, Woody Harrelson is basically your typical serial killer stereotype, but he's playing it up so well that I couldn't help but smile when he's on screen. You learn a little bit about him throughout the movie, which was pretty cool. And some of that is delivered in the form of a cartoon. And it's kinda dark, but also made me laugh a little. So I like Cletus. I don't think he was bad. He was very entertaining. The same goes for Carnage. I liked him. He's far more interesting than Riot, and he looks good as hell on screen. Honestly, the CGI for the symbiotes look much better than the first, so that's a huge plus. But I wish we saw more of Carnage. Don't get me wrong, he's in the movie longer than 10 minutes, but I still wish we saw him fight more. Also, most of the characters are better this time around, especially Anne, who is a huge improvement here. And Tom Hardy steals the show again like usual, but this time he doesn't have to carry the whole movie on his back because Woody Harrelson is also entertaining as hell, like I already said. So all the main players are good, although some of the news side characters aren't that good, like Shriek for example, and a detective. They don't do a whole lot in the movie and they're not as interesting as Eddie and Cletus, but they're serviceable. And now the cherry on top are the shots like this. There are a few really good shots and they look like they came right out of a comic book panel. Now, even though I enjoyed myself, I can admit that this movie isn't perfect. For starters, it could have really benefited from an R rating. The action and violence just seems much more choppy, restrained, and nerfed than the first. Like Carnage just kind of throws people around, and of course there's no blood, and you only see like 2 people get their heads bitten off. It's similar to the first, where since they gotta keep it PG-13, the action feels choppy, and the violence is pulled back. It's actually a little bit annoying. I also feel like a longer runtime would have helped this movie greatly. Not only because it would have given us more time for Carnage, but also because there's a point in the movie where Venom and Eddie kind of part ways for a brief moment, and in that time a lot of stuff just starts happening. It's one event after another, and then they reunite. And I feel a longer runtime would help this section not feel so cramped with stuff. And the dialogue can feel pretty choppy at times, but not as bad as the first, so that's good. Really thinking about it, it's most of the same issues I had with the first. Only difference is here I enjoyed myself more. It focused on and explored Eddie and Venom's relationship, while being more over the top and goofy. So overall, I enjoyed Venom Let There Be Carnage. I found it to be a fun, silly, goofy blast. It's not perfect by any means, but I wouldn't mind watching it again, which is something I didn't say after I saw the first one. I feel like this one took the stuff that worked in the previous, and then just cranked it up and made that the focus. And this time around, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It just goes, fuck it, let's make things over the top and fun. So I think if you enjoyed the first one, you're gonna like this one even more. Another reason why I think this movie is getting a lot of praise is because of the end credits scene. It really does help elevate the movie and makes you really hyped for what's gonna happen next. I won't spoil it, but it definitely involves who you think it involves. And there's my thoughts on Venom Let There Be Carnage. Go ahead, leave a comment, let me know what you think of it, because I definitely enjoyed it much more than the first. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, go and drop a like on it. Thanks for watching, I'll catch you next time.
Hang up that computer call, come over here and kiss me on my hot mouth. I'm feeling romantical.
Well, Malcolm, I suppose I should get going.